Nashil, thank you so much for coming in. You're also the non-executive director for South Africa's Council of Shopping Centres, so we do have the right person here to speak to. Now, this survey came out last year already, and that would, of course, mean that we're talking about old news. But what really caught my eyes when I saw a massive redo of the Fourways Mall opening a couple of months ago, and it being declared as the biggest shopping centre, if not on the continent, at least in South Africa, and it being Fourways, just a few kilometers down the road from the Mall of Africa, which also proclaimed to be the biggest of all kinds of things when they opened just a few years ago. All of this against the backdrop, we hear day in and day out, South Africans from all backgrounds, of all LSM levels, are not buying like they usually do. The disposable income is not there anymore. They're trying to cut corners and to really pull in those purse strings. How do big retailers, such as yours and those of represented on the SA Council of Shopping Centres, how do you justify these kinds of investments?
So maybe I'd first like to start by saying I think the data in terms of us being the fifth or the sixth highest in the world can be a bit misleading. Because if I add to that and you take the data for shopping centres per million of GDP per square metre, you would find that we are the second highest in the world. So that would suggest that South Africa is in a serious oversupply of retail facilities.
So does that put us just under the United States?
Just under the USA, if you look at it on a per square metre per million of GDP. However, the USA and France have a very high component of their retail sales happening on the high street, approximately 40 to 50% of their sales. So if you add that back in, it would imply that South Africa moves significantly down that list because we don't have a significant portion of our retail sales coming from high street. Secondly, a lead indicator for an oversupply of retail would be trading density, being sales generated per square metre of lettable area. As of June 19, South Africa has a 5.7% growth on sales in trading density, implying that we're not actually in an oversupply situation. And therefore, it's important to look at the data in context. I would also say just that we look at how South African shopping centres operate and where they're concentrated. So if we take the 12 super regional centres, which form the largest component of retail, there are 12 across the country, 5 of them are in Gauteng. So these are in very high economic nodes. Means that there's not really a concern about their sustainability at this stage.
Do you find that alarming, though, especially, like I said, where we keep hearing that South Africans from various LSMs are not spending money the way they normally do?
I would say that I think there is an element of oversupply in certain nodes.
Okay.
And certain assets may actually be oversized. And it's important that we understand that that is nodal. In reverse, there is an undersupply in certain areas. For example, the rural and township models, in particularly where there's a significant undersupply of retail. And it's how do we exploit those opportunities to continue seeing growth. I think there are certain things that have to happen. So we're seeing retail sales coming through around grocery, value fashion, across an industry is coming through. And I think people are still needing to get out, and they still get out to shopping centres as a main form of entertainment. In actual fact, a large element, a large portion of our consumer base sees it as an outing as a family.
And now, based on the work that you do at Redefine, you say that you see the gaps in undersupplied areas where you have population growth, but people need to travel very far to go and do their shopping. Why do you think, or is there, I should ask you this, is there a reticence for retailers to go into those areas where there seems to be a major need and a major market?
No, we're seeing actually retailers demanding space. They're looking for more space. That's not as redefined, but I'm talking across as an industry, we're seeing retailers growing. And it's one of the few areas where we're seeing actual development still happening. I think the other nodes, given where we are, is going to have hindered development over the long term.
You're saying that in certain places you actually can't keep up with the demand. You would think that would obviously be areas who service people in the so-called upper LSM as well. Is that a bottomless pit, or is the sky the limit, as it were?
I see the opportunity, I think, more not in the high end, but in the value segment. the convenience shopping centres.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that? So not your big, shiny, fancy shopping centres, your little centre that has maybe 2 major stores in there and then little bits and pieces of other shops.
That's one element. That's what we call generally a convenience centre. So there's a strong trend towards polarization of the consumers, but they're either looking at one-stop facilities or convenience. The convenience being you shop, you park outside, you buy bread, milk, and you leave. The one-stop being the largest super-regional shopping centres because they offer a one-stop shopping facility. So those two are showing real elements of positive growth at the moment.
So often we have these conversations about the various sectors in South Africa's economy that is struggling, manufacturing and that kind of thing. Retail, the space that you're in, you're putting up your hand and saying it's not doom and gloom. We actually see room for growth.
No. I'm not suggesting that. I'm not suggesting that. No. I'm saying that I think there are certain pockets or elements, and it's very nodal and asset specific, where there is those opportunities. I think the data, as it shows that we are fourth largest, is actually misleading in terms of a sustainable shopping centre industry.
So South Africans just like to shop. Even if it's not big ticket items, they're still spending their money on what they believe they need, and they like going to nice shopping centres to do that. Okay, let's leave it there. Nashul Chitoki is the retail asset manager at Redefined Properties, and he's also the non-executive director for the South African Council of Shopping Centres. Thank you so much for your insight this afternoon.